It is time to get down to business. Game 2. Danny Green with his apparel and his play on the court is not messing around. Flames. Ben Simmons. Yes, this guy had such an impact in Game 1 of the series on the board and serving as the driver for the 76ers offensive engine. George Hill, that is him. It's playoff time, baby, and the 76ers are pulling out all the stops. We're going to take a 2-0 lead in this best-of-7 Eastern Conference quarterfinal series between the number 1 seed 76ers and the number 8 seed Washington Wizards. Taking a look inside the center in South Philadelphia. That is the site tonight where the building expects to be rocking again. Shake Milton, Studious, Pregame, along with Furkan Korkmaz, DJ McClay, and Tyler Lashbrook, 76ers player development coaches extraordinaires, as we welcome you into 7-6 Live Countdown. I'm Brian Seltzer. Great to see you, Lauren Rosen. Great that the 76ers have a 1-0 lead in this series.
Yeah, Seltzer, it was a slower start, of course, in Game 1 with Joel Embiid getting into a little bit of foul trouble. But this is a team that really figured things out in that second half. I know you're going to talk about that a little bit later, but Doc Rivers happy with the way his team played in the second half, and we'll look for some continuity here tonight in Game 2 with another pretty big home court advantage, Seltzer.
Couple things on that, Lauren. I felt while watching the game on Sunday, there was never really a moment when I doubted the 76ers would be able to find another level and pull that game out. I think of the Wizards as an 8 seed, a really tough 8 seed when you've got talent, especially in the backcourt, the likes of which Washington has. But the Sixers defense was really, really good. Second point, I think tonight 76ers have to come out with the utmost sense of urgency. Like I'm saying, almost plays it, maybe not quite like a closeout game, but treat this as the opportunity to seize control of this series and try and squash any hope that the Wizards might have as the series prepares to shift to the nation's capital.
No doubt about it. And looking, of course, way ahead, there are a couple teams that have taken 2-0 leads now in the Eastern Conference. It would behoove the Sixers to do the same tonight, help them make quicker work of this first round series. I agree with you. It's a bigger game than maybe a normal Game 2 would feel, but quite a big opportunity for this Sixers team tonight at home.
Because I think that the Wizards played, all things considered, on balance, a pretty solid game on Sunday. They put it on turnovers in the fourth quarter down the stretch. But I think Washington played probably as close to as good of a game as it might be able to do. So if that's the case, and the Sixers were still able to win, and the Sixers are able to overcome any immediate right off the tip burst by the Wizards tonight, because you got to expect they'll be coming out fired up. I think the Sixers will send a really big psychological message in this series as well.
Well, the Wizards caught a gift there in the first half with Joel Embiid not being able to play as heavily as he would have liked to, as the Sixers would have liked him to. And don't expect the Wizards to receive that same gift again, maybe anytime throughout this series. You can't expect something like that. The Sixers adjusted to it well. The Wizards tried to capitalize, ultimately failed, though. And I'm with you, Celtics. I think that might have been their best opportunity to steal one, particularly on this court at home where the Sixers are so strong. And the Sixers managed to pull it out. Nevertheless, looking forward to seeing how this one goes.
Especially with Joel Embiid plagued with foul trouble in the first half. So rare to see Joe get into foul trouble, especially that early on in the game. With the 76ers credit, they hung around Tobias Harris, a huge part of that. 37 points from the should-have-been all-star. Ben Simmons was huge on the offensive glass. And then, Lauren, the Sixers held down the fort long enough. In the second half, Joe really came alive and did his thing, especially late in the fourth quarter, that flurry of jumpers that we saw down the stretch.
Well, I liked the way that Tobias and Ben spoke about how they responded to that sort of absence from Joel Embiid in the first half. They said that they've had to figure out ways to win games without Joel a few times this year. And then game one turned out to be no different. Luckily, they knew that he would be coming back, so all they had to do was hold it down. And my, oh my, did the two of them do that in the time that Joel was on the bench. And then again in that second half where all three of them really shone.
And the thing that I love, Lauren, about the playoffs is that my personal opinion, think that for a team to get as far as it can possibly go to that ultimate destination of the finals and possibly winning the Larry O'Brien Trophy, your best players have to be at their best. But that doesn't mean that along the way, different junctures in different games, in different series, it's going to call for some complementary players to step up. And Danny Green and Seth Curry were so big during that game-changing run, 16-4, the Sixers went on in the third quarter on Sunday.
Yeah, it was a special run there. The Wizards had that 5-point lead. The Sixers not liking that, not settling for that, and managed to get some threes to fall. You mentioned Steph and Danny. Tobias had one in there too, and all of a sudden the Sixers had a pretty sizable lead and didn't really look back from that third quarter run. So I like what you say about other players outside of maybe the big three contributing as this series goes along, because this third quarter that I'm sure we're going to have some highlights for in a second was exactly that. Huge contributions from guys that really know how to play their role.
Tobias Harris in the spotlight without question, 15 for 29 from the floor. He was on point at his very best. You see one of those straight line drive dashes to the basket by Harris, scoring in a variety of ways and playing the role of cleanup man and facilitator there as Dwight Howard gets the putback. He was chippy and close early on, a very competitive game in the first half, and the Sixers ultimately opened things up. And Joel, I give Joel credit and the Sixers credit, Lauren, that they withstood the psychological strain that Joe being in foul trouble you would have thought put on the team.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what Ben and Tobias were saying post-game. They've had to learn to win without Joel, and now they got to sort of show off what they learned in the regular season about how to play with him and how to play without him, and they managed to get it done nevertheless. Talk about someone that was able to get it done while Joel was on the bench. Dwight Howard, who has been doing so all season long.
Dwight Howard, big in the cleanup role. Here's that 16-4 spurt. The 76ers went on. Big shot from Danny Green, helping to do some little things along with Ben Simmons with that Bradley Beal sandwich right there. And then when the 76ers get out and run, Lauren, they can find and set up their trail threes in transition. They are a tough out, and they showed that there.
No doubt about it. These are two teams that are interestingly matched. The Sixers, of course, have not lost to these Wizards yet in the regular season or in the postseason. But it's been an interesting matchup. I'm looking forward to hearing from a couple of our players later on what they actually thought about this matchup, because there are some pretty elite weapons on both sides.
George Hill had some nice moments, as we're seeing throughout the game. 11 points. Tobias Harris backing up what's been an exceptional regular season in his postseason debut this year for the Sixers. How about Seth Curry doing it outside and in crunch time? And then we get to the point of the game where the Sixers clamp down on defense, and that was just really the key to set up everything else. Big shot right there. And then Joel Embiid, this part of that stretch where he knocks down 3 consecutive mid-range jumpers to essentially put the game away, to go along with his free throw shooting.
Well, it was nice to see Joel heat up the way that he did at the end there. Seltz, I agree with you. Good to see him get some rhythm, even if it was a little bit later on based on what he was able to do or not do in that first half with the foul trouble.
76ers outscored Washington by 8 in the second period. I think that left a lot of people feeling good following the 125-118 victory. 76ers, it's been 2 days since that game. They were idle on Monday. They got back to work. Well, they had a film session on Monday. Then they got back to work in terms of a practice yesterday. Doc Rivers spoke after that and was asked about what areas of improvement he sees the 76ers needing to make.
It was a list, and I'm not joking. It was a list. not matching up, running to your own men. Buddy running is what we call it. Like if the ball's in front, but your man is next to you, you start buddy running with him instead of getting in front of the ball, and then communication. There's two or three more if you want me to name them, but it's funny, man. You work a whole week and then that happens. You're looking around like, what the heck? But we did fix it in game, which is a big thing. And I thought, Washington definitely got our attention by the way they play. There's no doubt about that.
Like we said, Lauren, this is a really good 8 seed in the Washington Wizards, a team with two terrific veterans in Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. I mean, Beal went for 33, maybe some would say a quiet 33. Westbrook finishing with 16 points, 14 assists, 5 rebounds, and the urgency those two bring to a game. Some of the 76ers, I think it was great that they had to be put into a spot to adjust to that and still obviously came out with a win on Sunday.
Well, they found ways to get it done. And a lot of that, of course, someone we haven't talked a ton about so far, due in part to Ben Simmons and his defense. Then, of course, we found Matisse Thybulle come in and have a strong stretch in that same third quarter when we finally saw some three-pointers fall for your Sixers. Really interesting to see the way that the defenders have adjusted to guarding Bradley Beal. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben Simmons had many possessions, if any, on Beal in the regular season and responded pretty well to his first few in the postseason.
A smattering, but in the 2 games, right, you're right that he played against the Wizards this year out of the 3-game regular season series. It was Ben primarily on Russell Westbrook, and in the first game of this series, responsibilities switched. Danny Green went on to Russell Westbrook, and it was Ben, the primary man, who was marking Bradley Beal, and we'll get into that a little bit later about the defensive impact that Ben Simmons had. We have to talk a little bit more about Tobias Harris, because I think, Lauren, in years past, whether it's been in the regular season or the postseason, questions from fans, media members, the Sixers has been, well, if Joel Embiid is contained or he happens to have an off night, doesn't have it going on, who's the secondary scoring option? And I'm not saying that there can't be other secondary scoring options. What I will say is Tobias Harris is another scoring option. You can make the case he could be a primary scoring option in crunch time. We saw it throughout the regular season, and boy, he stepped it up in game 1.
Well, it's a role that he's wanted to play. Tobias Harris has said since he came to the Sixers from the Clippers a couple of years ago that he wants to be a scorer. He wants to be a closer. We've seen him be a closer. He got to show off that scoring at the beginning and throughout in game 1. Really cool to see the work that this player has put in, signing a new contract and continuing to get better. That's not something you always see around this league, but something that people that follow Tobias should know isn't a huge surprise.
Tobias nearly hit a playoff career high in points. In the first half, he was 1 point shy, scored 28. His previous high had been 29. And yes, he was locked in. Rui Hachimura, neat. Should have been all-star Tobias Harris. This was no contest. And this, Lauren, I think, as far as adjustments go in this series, that's what everyone's going to have their eye on. What do the Wizards try and do to slow down Tobias Harris?
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's one that you and I have talked about quite a bit on our various platforms. But the matchups are a problem for the Wizards. When you look at Tobias Harris, this is a starting lineup that in game 1 included some smaller guys. When you look at Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, and Raul Neto, who is going to guard Tobias Harris when Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid also have to be accounted for? It's not really a question that I think the Wizards have an answer to, and Tobias exploited that opportunity in game 1 over and over, as you're seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Wizards obviously don't want to fall down 2 games to none in this series. So whether or not Washington sticks with its starting lineup or perhaps tries to bring in someone with a little bit more length off the bench to match up physically with Tobias, something to keep an eye on. Doc Rivers said a few moments ago he's expecting certainly the Wizards to try and take away driving lanes from Tobias Harris and obstruct his path to the basket a little bit more. But when Tobias is locked in like this, as he's showing you right here in the college package, there was so much that he was able to do, such an impressive mindset that he adopted in the game with Joel Embiid dealing with early foul trouble, and that's something that Tobias talked about afterwards.
I look at it kind of like, how we're looking at the whole year when Joel went down with injury. What I needed to do for our team to win games at that point. He goes out with with 3 fouls, and it was just the same mentality of, all right, we got to get this thing rolling, and the opportunities were there for me to be aggressive and get to my spots and get the shots that I wanted to get. And at the same time, I thought like as a team, we didn't make as many shots as we wanted to, especially early on in the first half. But the biggest thing is we had enough, mental focus to really come out in the second half and defend and try to get as many stops as we could and let that fuel our offense. And we found a good rhythm. So we know that's the blueprint to our success. And game 2, we got to bring even more of that.
And that's what I was going to talk to you about, game 2 and the other ones. I mean, do you look at this series as going to be a dogfight? I mean, because no matter what y'all were doing, they kept coming back.
Yeah. I think, if yesterday I was watching all the NBA games, and I was kind of surprised. I said, man, all these games are really close. It wasn't like a real big spread in any of them. And I think this whole playoff series, game in and game out, you're going to see dogfights from, all around the league. I mean, Washington, they've been one of the hottest teams after the All-Star break in the whole NBA. So for us, we know the power that they have and the guys that can make shots on the team. So that just adds to our focus as a group and knowing how locked in we need to be for this whole series. And that's only going to help us into where we're trying to go.
Tobias Harris certainly locked in, and the results showed, particularly in that first half. And then, Lauren, as we talked about, in the fourth quarter, as we shift to Joel Embiid, listen, Joe was outstanding in the second half. He scored 21 of his 30 points after intermission, not surprisingly, because he was able to stay out on the court. I think we're having some audio issues with Lauren. We're going to try and get that resolved. Listen, this thing called the internet, you just never know sometimes. It's like Forrest Gump says, you never know what you're going to get. But I thought it was great that Joe was able to come back in the second half. He didn't pick up his fourth foul until 70 seconds left in the game. So he was able to find the right balance of playing in a way that allowed him to still have an impact and effect on things, especially defensively, while also walking the fine line of not getting into deeper and deeper foul trouble. But yes, seeing from Joe that series of 3 straight jumpers he made in the fourth quarter, closing time, Joel was there, and also his performance from the free throw line where he was near perfect, 12 for 13. And that's part of the dynamic surrounding Joe that's just so special. Not only does he get to the free throw line, I mean, how often does he miss more than 2 free throws in a game where he shoots at least 10 attempts? I can't give you that stat, but my gut tells me from what I've watched over the course of the last 5 months, it doesn't happen very often. Joel knows the 76ers can do better moving forward. Joel, after the game on Sunday afternoon.
I thought defensively we were good, especially me. Got in foul trouble, so I was kind of, I wasn't playing at my full potential defensively, just in fear of, getting the fouls that we're calling. So I just got to do a better job. And as a team, we got to do a better job. They had too many easy baskets, especially in transition, so we got to fix that.
A dialed-in Joel Embiid who is ready to play at full strength and hopefully not being hindered by fouls, something that is awesome and cannot wait to see that hopefully tonight. A couple of statistical footnotes from the game on Sunday. Joe and Tobias combined for 67 points, 2 30-point scores for the 76ers in a playoff game for the first time, going all the way back to Charles Barkley and Hersey Hawkins in 1990. Impressive stuff. And Ben Simmons, the first 76er to get 15 boards and 15 assists in a playoff game for the first time since 1967. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who did it. I know he's from Overbrook. All right, here's what we're going to do. We'll throw it to Lauren's Inside Access interview with Matisse Thybulle, and I'll try and think of that fellow's name. Overbrook. Might have done something like that. I'll think about it. Go Inside Access with Lauren and Matisse Thybulle.
Hey, Matisse, you said that it felt pretty different in game one because of the amount of fans that were in there. What was your impression of that 11,000-ish crowd? How much did it mean to you to feel them around you?
Oh, I mean, it was the closest it's felt to the first half of my rookie season last year, where we had full capacity and it felt like what Philly's known for. And to think that we still aren't even at full capacity yet and the playoffs are just getting started makes you really excited for what the rest of this road has for us.
Bradley Beal told me yesterday that he respects the work that you put in to stop him from doing his job. What does it mean to you to hear that a player like that respects what you can do to him on the defensive end?
It's cool, and I think it speaks a lot to just the player he is, the competitor he is. I mean, a lot of guys don't like that kind of thing, especially as offensive players. Like guys who are as talented as he is, they take it personally, and they end up not liking the person who's just playing, who's guarding them. But I think that just speaks a lot to who he is as a competitor, a basketball player, and just inviting the competition. I think that's why we all started playing in the first place, and that's really what makes basketball so great.
And then because he's an admirer of your game, what do you respect about his game? What have you learned playing against Bradley Beal so far?
I mean, I don't think we have enough time to discuss it. I mean, the dude's an offensive juggernaut. I mean, we have Joel Embiid, but they have Bradley Beal. It's tough, and you see how much we got to throw at him just to try and slow him down, and even then, it's just, like I said, trying to slow him down. He's an incredible player.
Matisse Thybulle, thanks so much.
Matisse Thybulle, I know that you were in on the Washington Wizards media availability yesterday. What else did Bradley Beal have to say about the 76ers defenders?
It was really interesting to hear Bradley Beal talk about both Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle. When he talked about Ben, he talked about the size advantage. He said, Ben's 6'10", I am 6'3", not really sure what I can do size-wise. And then he talked about the strength and the effort that Ben puts in every defensive possession. And then I asked him about Matisse Thybulle, and he said he's a lot like Ben, which I thought was high praise for Matisse, of course, coming from a respected veteran and scorer like Bradley Beal. So to hear him say that Ben is long, Ben is strong, and Ben is relentless, and then to give Matisse that exact same compliment right afterwards, this is a guy that respects the players he's going up against. Like you said, Seltz, maybe a quiet 30, 33 points from Bradley Beal, but he had to work through a lot to get there.
76ers and the Wizards in game 2 tonight. You know, the postseason is all about adjustments. We love having insight from Jay Crafton, former Blue Coats assistant coach. He was on Jay Wright's staff in Villanova. He's now the head coach at University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Time for us to do our thing and go inside the matchup.
This is Jay Crafton. It's time to go inside the matchup. Tobias Harris, Mr. Efficiency, my fellow Long Island brother from Long Island, a.k.a. Strong Island. Tobias was tremendous, 37 points on 15 for 29 shooting. And here's what I loved about it. He gave it to you in so many different ways. He gave it to you hard coming to his right hand all the way at the rim. We love how he was able to find that mid-range, sometimes get some mid-range pull-ups, but also showed that incredible fadeaway in the touch he has. When he gets to that fadeaway jump shot, whether it's in the short corner or in the mid-range at that foul line area, tremendous job there. My favorite play of the game was in that pick and roll situation where he kind of snakes it back, gets it to his left hand, shows the savviness, and finishes versus contact. Big time game for Tobias. He did an incredible job of reading the defense and picking his spots at the right place at the right time, and had an incredible game. Next up, let's talk about Joel Embiid's decisions versus double teams. I like how he intentionally got away from the double team to that fadeaway to start the game and was confident getting into that fadeaway. He also showed a great face-up move and went into traffic, showed you great pivot work, burst contact, and finished to get an N1. Here's the key, though. He made tremendous passes in the second half in key moments. He finds Seth Curry for a three on a kick out versus a baseline double team, and then finding George Hill in that baseline slash was a great play as well. He made great reads versus the double team. The Wizards are going to probably keep that going, or they may switch it up, sometimes show the double, sometimes show single coverage. Either way, Joel is ready and at the place of his career where he's making great decisions versus the doubles. Last up, let's talk about the incredible defense in the second half that the Sixers came out with. In the third quarter, they go on a 25-12 run. How did that happen? the defensive energy picked up. Doc really got in those guys, and you could see them respond. And you see Danny Green going out and picking up Russell Westbrook full court, forcing them into getting frustrated and getting an offensive foul. You see the drives and the crowd that being showed by the Sixers, guys coming over to help, scrapping it up, getting deflections that led to some transition buckets. And here's what I really liked. I loved when Joel changed up the drop coverage, came out and hedged out on the ball, and you see him get deflections, and we see Matisse out there hustling, and the big fella diving for the loose ball. That's the type of energy and effort that the Sixers are going to have versus a really talented Wizards team that's going to constantly be putting pressure on them. If they keep that second half defensive effort up and they do that for 48 minutes, all right, Sixers get the win tonight. This is Jay Crafton, and you just went inside the matchup.
Love hearing from Jay Crafton and the insight that he brings on that Inside the Matchup segment. Also, as always, great job by our producer extraordinaire, Trevor Gaffney, cutting the film to match the analysis. Lauren, what are you expecting tonight from the Wizards as far as the physical intensity they bring to the game?
Well, if there's one thing we know they can bring, it's speed. Doc Rivers said that he hopes his team responds with getting back quicker because the Wizards are going to get there quicker. This is a very quick team in the starting lineup and with the bench, with a guy like Ish Smith leading the way there. So if the Sixers can keep up pace-wise, they're going to be in good shape. But that might be the area that this Wizards team does have a bit of an edge when you come to how quickly these two teams like to play.
All right, it's time now to get to our keys to the game. Lauren, why don't you set the table for us for game 2 in the first round?
Well, Seltz, my key to the game is almost dangerously simple. And it is as follows. I said, feed the big fella. The big fella did not get to eat the way that he likes to in the first half of game 1. Joel Embiid is someone who the Wizards also do not have a matchup for. We talked about that with Tobias Harris. They certainly don't have someone that can bang with Joel for an entire game. And if Joel is careful as I expect he will be foul-wise and as aggressive as he wants to be at the same time, the Wizards are going to have a problem all night long. Feed the big fella. Get it done.
Love it. Yes, let Joel eat, and hopefully he can eat without restrictions tonight, unlike on Sunday. All right, my key to tonight's game is second half carryover from game 1. 76ers, great efficiency and balance of offense in the second half. Great offensive rebounding and terrific timely defense. I think that those three things came together very nicely for the Sixers. Obviously, no surprise that Joe was able to play in the second half, and they looked like the superior team. So carry it over from the second half from Sunday, and like I said at the top of the show, be ready to withstand an early sense of urgency from Washington. And for the Sixers, again, I think they need to come at this game not quite like the desperation of a closeout. That's difficult to replicate if you're not in that scenario. But just I think if the Sixers can get this done tonight, they're going to get Washington's best punch. And the Sixers psychologically and also on the scoreboard, they're going to have a really commanding edge in this series.
Well, this is a big-time matchup. It's a big-time opportunity. It's simple math. A 1-1 tie in a series, not as appealing as a 2-0 lead in the series. I like the intensity that you hope that they are going to bring. The vibes are strong here. All of this, the table has been set for an opportunity to be as dominant as a closeout-ish vibe that you're looking for. I'm looking forward to seeing how the Sixers show up tonight.
All right. That was fun. Our time is done here on 7-6 Live Countdown tonight for Game 2. We do it before every game. Wow, look at that. Wow. People, hopefully this doesn't cause you to regurgitate the food, the great food you're consuming at Xfinity Live.
They have quite the setup over there. That looks awesome. I almost thought that was the big board here at the center based on just how clear that picture looks and the location. It took me a second to realize what I was looking at. That looks great. So happy to be joining all of the Sixers fans all over South Philadelphia tonight.
Love that. Thanks to Ryan Coletti and Trevor Gaffney. We love Xfinity Live and the fans over there. Great place to watch the game if you can't get into it. We'll be back before Game 3 on Saturday. Enjoy tonight, and hopefully we're talking about a 2-0 series lead.